the death of the Queen Mother was an amazing one for me.
We're on the air with this special programme because Buckingham Palace has just announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother.
We had rehearsed for the sort of thing that we would do, and I had been told, you know, if it happens on your watch, you do not mess it up.
The official announcement was made just a few moments ago.
And it did happen on my watch. I just finished a short bulletin, and there was a bit of kind of movement in the gallery I could hear. And when you get that word in your ear, don't go anywhere. Finish the bulletin, but don't leave your seat. The Queen Mother has died. And that's kind of the moment that you really do kind of get a bit of iron in your spine, because you think, I mustn't, I cannot mess this up.
Buckingham Palace said that she died peacefully in her sleep this afternoon.
I went on down to the studio expecting to do a 3-minute bulletin. I think I was on for 3 hours in the end.
One that I particularly remember, I think it was the outbreak of the first Gulf War. The editor said to me, "Can you be on standby, John, to go into the studio to do a 1 or a 2-minute upsummer as we get more news in?" I said, "Absolutely, I'll stay as long as you want." Saddam Hussein has been on Baghdad radio this morning saying that the mother of wars has begun. So I went into the studio and it kept coming. Crossed to Baghdad for an interview, crossed to Kuwait for an interview, straight over to Mike Nicholson in the Gulf, live two-way with so-and-so, live two-way with so-and-so. Well, Brent Sadler is now on the phone from Baghdad. Mark Austin, who is in Bahrain. And I came out of that studio 7.5 hours later. We're now going to a Jeremy Thompson report? No, we're not going to a Jeremy Thompson report. Will someone tell me whether we're going to a Jeremy Thompson report? We're not. Right, they kept bringing me in cups of tea, which was absolutely lovely. By 7 in the morning, I had to walk with my knees clasped together. I staggered out of that studio and they said, "Are you exhausted?" I said, "No, I just need a loo." I hesitate to say it was a really exciting night for me because a war had broken out. So there's never anything nice about that. But as a television newscaster, you really do live for experiences like that. And I've, as you can tell, never forgotten it.
Sky Channel, Europe's first satellite network, is launched.
Breaking news used to interrupt the TV schedule, but since 1989, it has become a daily occurrence on our screens, thanks to rolling news. Its birth in Britain made headlines around the world.
As of 6 p.m. in London, satellite broadcasting hit the airways in the UK and Ireland. Rupert Murdoch's Sky Channel will be providing programming 24 hours a day.
I think when rolling news began, in the early days with Sky, I was at the BBC in those days and we used to poo-poo it a bit and say it was all a bit rubbish. But I think we soon realised that in a world of choice where people had multi-channel television, rolling news was going to have a period where, you know, maybe it became really important.
Good evening, you're watching the World News from Sky Television News on the hour every hour.
Sky News. We're there when you need us. 24 hours a day.
Newsreading had become a 24-hour marathon. Sky News has now been on air for 26 years, with over 230,000 hours of continuous coverage.
5 minutes. Christian beliefs.
And four.
Christian beliefs.
It's instant, it's there, it's happening. This is the world living, breathing, pulsating. This is the world that's relevant to you. This is the news of today. To me, rolling news is the only news. Hello there, a very good morning to you on this Thursday morning. You're watching Sunrise from Sky News Studios in London.
There are always these moments when you want rolling news. Something big has happened, a general election or a plane crash or a disaster or a big moment in a war or something like that. You're going to want to turn on and watch rolling news.
In the early 90s, just as Britain was starting to get used to newsreaders on our screens 24 hours a day, an icon of British journalism was saying goodbye to the viewers.
Mr. Major will ask about his family in Moscow on Monday. This has been Alistair Burnett's last news at 10. He first joined ITN 28 years ago, and by any standard, it's been a remarkable career.
Alistair Burnett would go down in TV history as the newsreader's newsreader.
He was an iconic figure. You always felt that Alistair was the kind of owner of the news, and he was giving you a chance to share in it with him.
My main mentor in television news was the great Sir Alistair Burnett, who was, if you like, the Walter Cronkite of British television.
Burnett is my absolute hero, the best there ever was and ever will be as a newscaster.
And finally, news to shake the Kremlin.
He took me under his wing, he lent me books, he showed me how to research, he showed me how to prepare.
Oh, I don't know.
He had tremendous knowledge. He was a sort of walking encyclopedia, as you might say.
He was almost annoyingly brilliant, really, because there was nothing that he didn't seem to have more knowledge than you did about.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Alistair Burnett had anchored specials on some of British television's greatest stories. From man landing on the moon...
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
...to 8 general elections.
Within minutes, we shall have a pointer to who's going to govern Britain.
I well remember sitting with him in a television studio for the general election programme in 1979.
Now, Martin.
Well, it was a night when the north and south of Britain couldn't...
And the director, Di Edwards-Jones, said into the earpiece, "We've lost 56 outside broadcast cameras. When we come out of this videotape, Alistair, can you ad-lib for maybe 10 minutes? And Alistair just gave her the thumbs up. And I looked across at him, and there wasn't a single note on his desk.
If something were happening and we had a problem in the control room, I would say to the director, tell Alistair, fill for 2 minutes while we sort ourselves out. And Alistair would come out with a beautiful essay which would illuminate the story in hand while we sorted out the panic in the control room.
The first result of the morning is in. It's from Penrith and the border, Mr. Willie Whitelaw's seat.
It is hardly surprising that when he came down from the studio afterwards, there was a most enormous round of applause because he had made that election programme.
He was the master of it all. He was an extraordinary man.
When Sir Alistair Burnett passed away in 2012, the mourners made up a who's who of television news.
He carried his knowledge lightly, as they say, so he was a remarkable, really remarkable man.
Good evening. 7 people have died in the gales raging across the British Isles.
He had this enormous clout and presence, and if I've tried to do anything in my 30, 40 years, it's to copy him, to emulate him.
Mr. Baker, he's gone. He's left you. It's over.
He was my hero, and there will, as I say, never be a better man.
So from all of us on News at 10, thank you and goodbye.
2, 1. 2 grams and take.
Since 1955, there have been enormous changes in the way the news has been brought into our homes. But the role of the newsreader remains as important and as trusted as ever.
OK, so why don't we see how this is? There's been another big rise in the number of migrants coming to Britain.
So in today's multimedia, multi-channel world, what does it take to be the man or the woman bringing us the news?
The greatest single honour of being a newsreader is that you are in effect a conductor. You've got an orchestra in front of you. You're the man or woman who sits there and communicates directly with the viewer.
It is a huge privilege, first of all, to cover some of the stories that we cover. And secondly, and perhaps most importantly, it's a privilege to be able to impart those stories to the public.
On Channel 4 News tonight, David Cameron brings fresh talent into his cabinet.
You have to be pretty unflappable. You've got to be able to take in great big sort of swathes of information quite quickly.
10 seconds, health and safety.
Stand by camera.
You have to be calm. I mean, the old cliche about you're a swan, you're stately on the surface and you're paddling like hell underneath. It's a cliche, but it's true.
My role as a news anchor is to make the news accessible.
5 seconds. People at home are busy. They've got lots of things to do, and you need to grab their attention and tell them this is important. You need to stop and watch and listen to this.
And 4. Stand by 3. Cut 3, Mary Q.
I think the toughest challenge is keeping people interested in what you are going to say, making it relevant to their lives. That's the trick. If you manage that, you've done it very well.
Thanks, Barry.
Done.